Welcome Jeremy to the Art House Asia Film Festival. The first question I would like to ask, how are you feeling being in the festival and mentoring the projects in Produire Au Sud?
Awful. I feel awful. Honestly. No, I feel good. I feel. It's surreal to be in India. It's surreal to be here, and I have had no time to think about it. It's really strange. But I'm very happy to be here. Extremely happy to be here.
It's the first time.
Yeah, it's the first time in India. And as for mentoring all 7 directors, yeah, it's extremely. It's magnificent to discover India and other countries through stories. So basically, I have directors who are telling me their stories, their memories, their lives, basically. And so I'm discovering a bit of them and a bit of their culture through their stories. And it's quite, it's very often beautiful, it's touching, it's thrilling. It's quite weird as well to get into the intimacy of people you don't know in such a small period of time. But it's what I do, and I love it.
So, how do you think this kind of a film festival and also the Produire Au Sud workshops can add value to the South Asian film cinema culture?
Well, I feel like film festivals are places where you get to assert even more your taste. You are watching films that are making me even more want to make films. And there are some films that remind you why you're hooked, why you are a film addict, why you want to spend so much time working on your film. And you get to meet people who have the same disease, the same neurosis. So I think it's extremely important to go to film festival and to meet people who have the same addiction to you, same addiction than you. And as for the workshop, well, I hope we can help them to question, challenge their stories, basically. Maybe think of their stories in a different way. We're trying to challenge them a bit, shake them a bit, and question why they want to make this very film they're working on, why they want to tell this story, and why we might want to see the story on the large screen.
Okay.
So I think it's quite good.
Right. So yourself is a director and also a scriptwriter. So which role do you enjoy most, being a director or a scriptwriter?
To be fair, I'm a director. I directed a few films when I was in school. I directed afterwards a short film. I'm going to make a short film in a few months. But I directed a few short films, so I really don't see myself as a director. I must say that I have mainly 2 jobs. The first job is to be a screenwriter, and the second one is to be a consultant, which is not quite the same, because I'm some sort of tourist in people's story when I'm a consultant, and so I spend a few days and that's pretty much it. I don't have a responsibility of it, and I don't dive into their stories or to people's stories as much as when I'm writing a story and I'm spending months, if not even more, on the very story. So it's 2 different jobs. I don't see myself as a director.
Okay. So, as a screenwriter yourself, what do you think has fundamentally changed in the last maybe a decade or so in terms of the content development and
well, it's a very large question. It's a very, very large question. If you're asking me about the world cinema, so films from the whole world. From my tiny little experience, I can see that that people get to watch more films than before, so people know what has been made on the other side of the planet. I have the impression that people get to like very much some films and try to make the same films over and over again. So when you have a successful Thai film that won Palme d'Or in Cannes, 1 year, 2 years afterwards, you have like Little Happy Chapon trying to do the same kind of film. And it applies for many films. And every year we get to read many films which are like alike, like copycats. You get to see as well that there are some common themes, common takes on life, on society, that are being widespread and that you kind of feel like tendencies. And I can talk about it quickly. As I said, I have a little experience. I've been working on like this in Asia or in the Middle East for a few years only. But from my understanding, obviously the fear of modernity, which has always been an important fear, obviously, it's quite strong in the last. It has been quite strong in the last few years. The fear of a globalized world where you have the impression that you're losing your identity. Some sort of, yes, the very ancient fight against the ancient and the modern, tradition against modernity. I feel I get to read a lot of film about violence towards women. And yes, gender inequalities,
Right.
quite massively. And I work a lot in Southeast Asia, so as a writer or as just a consultant, and I get to read films about having just one child and not two kids, having to choose why having one boy is better than one girl.
Right.
And not only in India, or in China, but I get to read this in Taiwan or in the Philippines. I have the impression as well that I'm reading quite a lot of well-crafted scripts, a bit more than when I started 3 years ago. So again, yeah, the average level has risen a bit, but films where people are not taking so many risks. So I get to read quite often the same film over and over again.
Yeah.
When we're doing the selection with my colleagues and friends for one of this workshop taking place in France, we get to read every year the same films.
Right.
And yeah, it's a bummer.
So, what do you think about this rise of the OTT platforms? Is it good for
What kind of platform?
the Netflix
yeah.
Amazons? Is it good for filmmaking, or is it helping the independent filmmakers? What is your take on that?
Well, my impression is that Netflix and such they are obviously like providing films to people who wouldn't have access to these films everywhere. You can be living in Zambia and have access to films being made in India through this network. It's amazing. On the other hand, cinema is a collective experience. I think it's not the same thing to be in a film house than watching a bloody laptop screen.
Right.
We live in a world where we have like we're being afraid and getting afraid of sharing collective things. I mean, I don't know about India so much, but I know about the Western countries. We keep like being afraid of talking to people.
Right.
It's easier on internet. Walking down the street or taking the tube, it's easy with the Uber guy because you feel safe because there's a guy who doesn't really speak but addresses you as a robot. And I could keep on like for 2 hours like this, but I have an impression that we need to talk to the others. We need alternative. We need to share moments. We need to go and spend time with someone who doesn't look like you and who doesn't share the same values or have the same thought in you. That's very important.
Right.
We need to fight. We need to disagree, and we need to like and love each other. So I think that cinema is quite important in this respect. It's a moment where we are sharing a moment together, and we are not alike.
Right. Absolutely.
And as for the rest, production-wise, I think it's going to Netflix is going to kill us at some point because gradually, yes, you can watch a film at home. You can watch a film. It's no effort. I see kids in Paris. In the subway, watching their screen and watching Netflix, and then not watching Indian or French films. They are watching TV series, they are playing video games, and I get it. These platforms, I mean, these TV series things or these video games, they are taking risks. They are trying to tell stories in a new way, and they are bold and challenging. And I fully understand that they want to watch this TV series or play these video games. So I think that if we, as filmmakers, as authors, we don't take risk, we are going to die. So Netflix is, yes, it's the face of death.
So, what do you expect from what are the projects that you'll be working on in 2020? What is the year ahead for you?
If you want to know, I'll tell you with pleasure. I'm working on a Chinese film. It's a second film made by Zhang Tao. Zhang Tao made a first film called in English Last Love, that was in Cannes 2 years ago. It's a second film about a man his wife is pregnant. They live in the countryside. He's very romantic, has a pure vision of nature, a very Taoist vision of nature. And he's working in the city with his wife. She wants very much to buy an apartment, and he doesn't really want to live in the city. He thinks that they belong to the countryside. One day, as he's working on a construction site, in a big building, the whole ceiling is collapsing and he doesn't have a scratch, miracle. And then he starts he doesn't speak anymore. We don't know why, something strange happened to him. And he's completely idiotic. What's going to happen to him and how much he's going to go back to life and watch the Chinese society with a different set of eyes, and how he's going to understand that maybe one has to think about monetization in China. This kind of in China has been experiencing an atomic bomb with capitalism, and no one thinks about it. How much it changes people's life. Are you happier than before? That's basically the story. I'm working on a Norwegian film, second film, someone quite far away from here, Jonas Kulbrandsen. First film was in Toronto 2 years ago as well. And a Japanese director who is working in France. It's first film. It's a bit surreal. It deals with this massive construction site that we have everywhere in the world, You know, this kind of paradise city where you have like a shopping mall, which is as well some sort of privatized city. And we have this kind of stuff going on in France. It's a story of a guy who works on a construction site. It's a 24/7 construction site, thousands of workers. Many of them are immigrants, most of them are undocumented, and some undocumented guys disappeared one after the other. The main character thinks that they have had an accident and someone like hit their bodies or something, and actually he realizes one day that the construction site itself, it's some sort of monster that needs to be fed with workers, so it keeps on growing. So
that's interesting.
It's a fantastic film, surreal film. It's based on a very French naturalism tradition, but it's made by a Japanese guy, so it's turning into some sort of weird Japanese fantasy film.
Right.
And I might work with directors from Sri Lanka.
Okay.
But it's first steps.
That's
With a long answer. Oh, sorry.
That's really interesting to hear those projects. So, thank you, Jeremy, for your time. It was a pleasure to have you here. Thank you very much.